Well, I'll tell you, Timmy, James is one of these guys that I've known who he is.
When I go teach, whether it's NYU, Columbia, show of hands, how many of you are invested in real estate?
You were a bucket list guest for me.
A quarter of the hands go up. What's stopping the rest of you? I didn't inherit $10, $20 million. What do you do about that? I mean, that's a legitimate question.
He's a high-profile broker in New York City. If you're in the industry, you're going to know who Jame Nelson is.
You have the knowledge, you find an incredible opportunity, but you've never raised a dollar before. What do you do? I believe that the number one reason that people don't invest in real estate, it's really two things. One is...
What do you think the biggest threat is to the industry right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean...
Of all these 500 plus deals that you've done, what are some of the seller motivations that you think an investor should perk up if they hear?
I will say right now, the number one thing driving deals is...
I want to make sure we haven't lost Timmy. I don't know that we've ever brought up short sale.
This wouldn't be a Target short sale.
No, it's not like a buy one, get one free. I will give you a quick Barbara Corcoran story and I'm sure you'll get her on your show. Yeah.
Yes.
The last time I met with her, we said, Barbara, you've literally hired thousands of real estate brokers. Like, what is it that is the key to the success? How do you know that someone's going to succeed? And she said, the number one thing.
If you're new to commercial real estate investing, you probably know the feeling. Brokers, underwriting, raising capital, where do you even begin? And that's why CRE Investor Coach exists, to give new and emerging investors a clear step-by-step path to closing their first deal. I believe in this program so much, I actually joined the team as an adjunct faculty member. That's how committed I am to helping more people get into the space right now. Whether you want to go at your own pace with on-demand training, launch your first investment with expert coaching, or scale with a mastermind of other ambitious investors, there's a roadmap here for you. Inside, you'll learn how to define your investor identity, analyze deals with confidence, talk to brokers like a pro, raise capital, and build a real acquisition pipeline without all the guesswork. This is about building a business that blesses your life, not breaks your spirit. So if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and actually get in the game, check out the link in the show notes and start your journey today. Learn, launch, and scale with CRE Investor Coach. This episode is also brought to you by Site to Do Business, commercial real estate's most advanced toolkit, providing commercial real estate professionals like me with premier data, mapping, and marketing tools to win business and revolutionize decision-making. Visit stdb.com to learn more.
Welcome to Commercially Speaking, the podcast where one of us speaks fluent investment strategy and the other is still figuring out what a 1031 exchange is being exchanged for.
I'm Bo Barron, CCIM instructor, and the oldest of 6 kids, which means I've had plenty of practice explaining complex things to someone eating string cheese.
I'm Timmy Barron, ADHD, actor, comedian, and self-declared CRE risk assessment liability. We're over 100 episodes in, and honestly, I can now explain cash-on-cash return with confidence.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Do what?
Explain cash-on-cash.
Subscribe, rate, review. Do it for Barbara Corcoran. Do it for Bo, but mostly do it to keep me off the streets and out of zoning hearings. Welcome. Our guest today is one of those people Bo gets excited about, which usually means I'm about to nod a lot and Google 3 acronyms after we record. It's Jame Nelson, the head of U.S. investment sales at Avison Young, host of the Insider's Edge to Real Estate Investing podcast, author of a book by the same name, and one of the guys who helped build the Bob Knakal empire in Brooklyn back when brokers used Excel, fax machines, and sheer force of personality. He's closed over 500 properties, moved billions with a B of dollars, and taught at Columbia, NYU, and a bunch of other schools that wouldn't return my application. This man's been shaping markets while I've been trying to figure out how to remember capitalization rate without looking it up. Bo, James helped map out Brooklyn for investors. Mm-hmm. I once got lost in Brooklyn trying to find a coffee shop that ended up being someone's living room.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. James builds neighborhoods. I just wander through them with low blood sugar.
Please welcome a man who's done more deals than Timmy's done Google searches for what is a cap rate. James Nelson.
James
But-
Nelson.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Wow, that
Yeah.
was, I don't know if I've had an intro like that before. And huge fan of the show. And, look, love connecting with fellow podcasters. And Timmy, don't worry, there's hope for you. I did part of my bio is I graduated from Colgate with an English major, so I could spell real estate, but I certainly could not have told you what a cash on cash return was at the time. Although when I went into the business over 25 years ago, the barriers of entry were a lot lower. So, but there is hope.
Well, I'll tell you, Timmy, James is one of these guys that I've known who he is for years and years and years. Like, he's a high profile broker in New York City.
Right.
Like, he's somebody, if you're in the industry, you're going to know who James Nelson is.
Sure. Okay.
And I never once ever met him. Just knew who he was for years and years and years and years. And then he shoots me an email, reaches out, we jump on a call. We both have a podcast. You know, he's written a book, and we have this conversation. We're going to go on each other's shows, and he's here now. But you're right. This is kind of one of those. James is one of those people I get kind of excited about.
I'm getting excited because Bo is so excited. You see, that's when I know we got a good guest on.
Well, this is long overdue because Bo, we're also in Rod Santomassimo's book together. So it's this was a long time in the making, but we've both been tracking each other, and so it's all coming together. So Timmy, maybe it was you. Maybe you were the inspiration to finally make this happen.
Well, Timmy has made me relevant.
Yeah.
Through this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. Oh, well, I'm happy to orchestrate this meeting here, and do it. James, why don't, for anybody who has not heard of you, which apparently I think everybody has, but will you give us like a 5-minute origin story of where you started, where you grew up, what brought you into commercial real estate just leading up until now?
Okay, I could definitely do that under 5 minutes. So let's see. But you asked for the origin. So do I have to say born in Burlington, Vermont? And I will say that is actually where I was born. If you read my book, it actually says I was born in Madison, Wisconsin. So that's how you know that I had a writing partner. I don't know how that slipped, but just to set the record straight, so maybe we'll put that in the third edition. I was born in Vermont, grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, moved to Bethesda, Maryland. My father was a doctor. He was working at the Washington Hospital Center. I was a swimmer. I went to Colgate University, was an English major. Well into my senior year, all of my friends, fraternity buddies had investment banking jobs. They were all going to New York. I thought I was going to actually go to the West Coast to make movies or do something like that, until I realized that no one was paying me to do that. So I said, look, I better go get a real job. I went to the Career Service Center, and thank God Paul Massey, class of 82, had posted a job description for a sales associate for Massey Knakal Realty. And I didn't even know what real estate sales was. I didn't know about the sales position, but I said, look, I'll give it a shot. I put in a resume, and lo and behold, they called me in for an interview. And I will say that I had incredibly great gut feeling about both Paul Massey and Bob Knakal, who you've had on the show. They have continued to be lifelong friends with me. They're mentors of mine. But we did start off with, or I should say, I did start off with some pretty low expectations. They still tease me to this day that there was only 2 people who applied for the job, and I was their second choice. So, but meanwhile, the first guy they picked flamed out after like 6 months, and maybe they just couldn't get rid of me. But fast forward 17 years later, I was a partner in the company. They were really great to me, and we ended up selling the company to Cushman & Wakefield for $100 million, and that was amazing. And had 3 great years there. Again, doing investment sales the whole time, focused on New York. And then I got this opportunity a little over 7 years ago to come up over to Avison Young, a Canadian company that has now been in the U.S. for about 15 plus years. And it was just, I felt like it was an amazing opportunity to kind of build out a new team in New York. And that has been amazing. And then, now being in the business for over 25 years, this is kind of the next evolution. I've now taken on the role of head of U.S. investment sales. So, so now I'm doing a bit of traveling now after, one of the benefits of only focusing on New York, rarely get on a plane, but I'm making up for that now, but it's been a lot of fun. we've got 60 offices across the country, but I'm really focusing in on the top markets. New York still very much being one of them. And but this is still on the client facing, revenue generating business side. Like, this is not a management role where I'm running around with a clipboard. I'm still very much involved in deal making. And I got to say, spending some time in other markets has actually given some great perspective. So I didn't time that, but hopefully that was under 5 minutes.
Talk to us a little bit about Timmy understands, just being the son of our dad and my brother and doing this podcast for a while. Like, he has a feel at this point for what brokerage looks like. Give Timmy a feel for, when you head to LA to work on a deal, are you teaming up with the office there? What's a day in the life of Jame Nelson as he's traveling and trying to pursue the business?
This is a relatively new position for you too, right?
Yeah, this is just this year. So although this has kind of been over the last couple of years, starting to collaborate with some of our other offices. But yes, I mean, what I will say is, there's some brokers, Timmy, who just, are kind of solopreneurs, that they kind of work on their own, or maybe they have they're on a team of 2 or 3 people, or maybe they have one associate. Okay. When I went to Avison Young, the vision was to build one unified sales team that covers the whole market, right? Because brokerage is actually kind of a funny thing if you think about it. In kind of traditional brokerage, you could be under one roof, right, in one office, and the broker that you're looking at across, the cube is actually your competitor. So that's a really strange thing. You work for the same firm, and yet you guys are both separate independent contractors, maybe even calling the same owners, and who can get there first, right? So that's when you hear about these locked desk drawer environments, you hear about the sharp elbows. And I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way to do this. Now, that being said, Massey Knakal was very collaborative. The way we did it was we had a territory system. So we cut up the city into 50 territories. Everybody had a neighborhood. So that way we knew how to work things out and not trample all over each other. But we're doing a little differently in New York at Avison Young. With our sales team, we have teams that are based by asset class. So the major food groups, multifamily, office, retail, development, maybe a little bit industrial. But that's the idea, is now to kind of take that and, yes, Bo, to your point, partner with the other offices, right? Because I will tell you that you could spend your entire career learning the New York market, and I still learn new things every single day. And so, yes, I will bring a New York-based client who's investing in Dallas, who's investing in LA, right? So I can open the door, right? But still, that owner is going to say, if you don't have the local expertise, and if you don't know what's going on in this market, I'm not hiring you. I might love you, James. You're a great broker in New York, but if you don't know this market, I'm not trusting you with this multi-million-dollar asset. So yes, I'm helping bring the business opportunities to the local offices, partnering with them, right? And then we say you get the best of both worlds. You get the local expertise and knowledge, but we're now going to be able to market this to a national platform. And that's exactly what we're doing. We actually closed a deal in Charleston last week, an office deal, $48 million. We were really kind of the driving engine behind that sale, but we have a local office in Charleston with an office, leasing team that knows the market, knows the building, could physically walk it. So I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Well, it sounds to me a lot like the Massey Knakal geography system, only it's national.
That's right.
So when you go to Dallas, you partner with the person in Dallas, and when you go to LA, you partner with them, and it works. So you've got the relationship, you've got the expertise with the client, and then you're getting the local boots on the ground to add that layer of local expertise to really serve the client.
Makes sense to me.
Well, all right. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
There we go.
The time for your last, it's your 5 questions at the end. Are we already? Wow, that time really flew by.
Well, tell us why you wrote a book.
Well, let's see. It was middle of 2020. We were all camped out at home, wondering if it was the end of the world. And I don't know if Blaine Strickland is a name that you all know, or if you've
Sure.
read his stuff. He's also one of my mentors, and he said, James, you can either, kind of just sit and wait this thing out, or you could do something that you maybe would never have the opportunity to do. I'd already started this whole podcasting thing, which I didn't really know, what this was all about. I mean, this is now going back 5 years, but I said, why don't I take some of this knowledge and put it into a book? Because at this point, for 20 years, I've been asked the question, James, what is the book that teaches you how to invest in real estate, right? And there's a lot of the rich dad, poor dad, how to go buy a 4-family, live in one unit. And look, that's not a bad way to start off, right? There's also textbooks, and Bo, the fact that you're doing CCIM is amazing, but that is very, kind of more in a analytical kind of classroom setting. What I wanted was a narrative, right? I wanted a book where you could read this, whether you've never invested in real estate to you're a veteran, and you could read this book and say, oh, okay, I understand how this all works. It starts really basic, right? So Timmy, you could definitely even, I guarantee you, I will not lose you throughout this book. It talks about what are the different ways to invest in real estate. How do you get into it, right? How do you raise capital? I believe that the number one reason that people don't invest in real estate, it's really two things. One is, okay, lack of knowledge, right, or experience. And look, there's so many resources now like this where you can learn about it, but lack of capital, that's real. And when I go teach, whether it's NYU, Columbia, show of hands, how many of you are invested in real estate? Maybe a quarter of the hands go up, and then what's stopping the rest of you? Well, I didn't inherit 10-20 million dollars, right? So what do you do about that? I mean, that's a legitimate question. So let's say you have the knowledge, you find an incredible opportunity, but you've never raised a dollar before. What do you do? Right? So I talk about, for a first deal, finding a trusted partner, finding someone who's already done it before, where even if you bring the deal and you have that sweat equity in it and you kind of work with that co-GP partner to go do that deal together, that's what's going to help you gain the experience, right? And understand how to do it. So, it just step by step, it talks about how to work with brokers, what to look for in great opportunities. It shocks me how rare it is that an investor asks, James, why is your owner selling? Tell me about the situation. I talk about seller's motivation, right? How to find great opportunities, what to do once you've closed on it, how to reposition the asset. So it really kind of from start to finish, it just explains the whole thing. And I actually think it'd be what I do when I go speak at these schools is I give out the books. And I think before someone's thinking about going back and getting a master's, that's great. Taking some real estate undergrad courses, that's great. Certainly CCIM, an amazing thing to do. But you read the book in advance, and I think it really helps you just kind of level the playing field and speak the language.
When you mentioned sellers' motivations, and I'm always very interested, especially when we do a deal, like why somebody is selling, right?
Right.
I don't know that I'd ever buy anything if I didn't at least have some kind of feel of that. But of all these 500 plus deals that you've done, and what are some of the seller motivations that you think an investor should perk up if they hear?
Right. Well, I will say right now, the number one thing driving deals is loan maturities, right? And so, especially if the person you're trying to buy from, they put debt on the property, and whether it was 2016, maybe it was a 10-year mortgage and their loan's coming up next year. Maybe it was a 5-year deal. Maybe it was something that they, some cheaper debt that they put in place in 2021, right? So what I always say is, look, and even whether you're brokering or you're looking to buy, if you don't first look at how much debt's on the property, you're completely wasting your time, right? Because a lot of the times, borrowers will call us up, owners will say, hey, can you help us sell a property? And we'll do quick back of the envelope and say, look, we'd love to help out, but it looks like, your payoff, your debt balance is more than the property's worth. So, look, we can go speak to the lender right now, and we can talk about running an open process. I mean, we can try to recoup some equity for you, but it's probably going to be a short sales, and we're going to need their cooperation. So again, that being said, there are some cases where they do have equity left in the deal, but the mortgage is coming due, and because of rates going up, banks becoming more conservative, the loan to values are less. So now instead of seeing cash out refis, we're seeing cash in refis. And by the way, this isn't just from like high flying investors who bought 5 years ago. We sold $150 million portfolio in the West Village, Soho, Chelsea, 40-year ownership, right? And if you asked them 5 years ago, oh yeah, we have conservative debt, we got 50% debt, loan to value on the property. Well, fast forward, their loans coming due, and the lender's like, yeah, we'll refinance, but you got to pay down the mortgage $10 million. And they're saying, well, we haven't given a capital call for our investors for 40 years. We're not about to do it now, right? And so guess what? That forces a sale opportunity. They're going to sell. So if you're the buyer and you understand that that is happening, time is our most valuable asset, and you just don't want to waste your time, chasing some discretionary seller who just says, hey, if I can get, a ton of money for my property, I'll sell. There's got to be a reason. So loan maturities are number one. Partnerships, disputes, estate sales, obviously, there's a lot of other things to look for, but you gotta ask the question.
You just said a couple of terms that I want to make sure we haven't lost Timmy. Okay. Are you familiar with short sale? I don't know that we've ever brought up short sale on the podcast.
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
Short sale.
Well, James, would you explain to Timmy in a way a fifth grader would understand what a short sale is?
This wouldn't be a Target short sale.
No, it's not like a buy one, get one free. This is like you owe more to the bank than the property is worth. So there's a deficiency, right? And so if you want to sell, the best thing for a borrower to do is often to go to the lender and say, look, I understand I'm out of the money here. We don't need to drag this out and, drag out a foreclosure process, which takes time. It's expensive. Look, this is no one's fault. The market radically changed. The lenders typically don't want the property back, especially if we're talking about all this office stuff that you read about that's selling for 20, 30 cents on the dollar. The lender's saying, I don't want it back, right? Everybody knows, let's just keep, you keep the property going. We're going to sell it together. This way the bank, gets, the best pricing they can through a conventional sale, right? But you're basically selling it for less than what you owe the bank.
Okay.
So think about it this way. If I sell one of these group investment deals I did in the past, as long as I make more than I owe the bank, I don't need their permission. I just pay them off at the closing.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
I fulfill the loan terms and I'm good to go. And whatever's left is mine and distributed out through the group of investors. Everybody's happy.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can't sell for more than what you owe the bank, then you need their involvement.
Right.
And that's where it's a short sale. It's like, man, they need to agree to either take less and write it off, because like James was saying, like they don't want to own the property. Banks
right.
hate owning the actual real estate. Or, there's even I owe 20 million, I can sell it for 19 million. Maybe I sign a note for the difference. And I'm still on the hook, but they still allow the sale to go through. So it's it's just more complicated, and nobody's really happy with the results. It's just, it could be worse if you go the foreclosure route.
Right. Right. You're almost avoiding all the extra paperwork and headache.
Let's cut our losses.
Yeah.
And take the beating
and not
instead of yes. Great way to put it.
Yeah.
So, and Timmy, if you really, we want to ratchet this up to the level 200-300, and you want to sound really fancy, could also talk about loan sales, right? And what happens with that. Because sometimes when there's a short sale, both the borrower and the lender are doing this jointly, right? So they, no one's necessarily happy about the outcome, but it's not litigious, right? Sometimes borrowers say, well, I've got holdup value. Like they're trying to negotiate with the lender saying, hey, you got to cut me a deal. You got to pay me to go away, or we're going to end up in court. And depending on which state you are, in New York, like a judicial state, you could be in court for a couple of years to you get the property back. So sometimes lenders say, you know what, I'm going to just sell the loan. And then you sell the loan and investors buy that. They step into the bank's shoes. And then, a lot of these private investors, then they go and try to foreclose it out. So yeah, there's a lot more nuance to it. I mean, Bo kind of referenced whether or not when you take a mortgage, do you have a personal guarantee, right? Meaning, are you personal on that mortgage? And if there's a deficiency, a lot of these loans are non-recourse, meaning the most they can come after is just the property, right? In most basic terms. So kind of what dictates how this is going to go is typically if that mortgage is non-recourse or if the borrower is personal on it. So
yeah, man, you sign personally. It's not just about the property. They can come after what else you own.
I know that's does not sound smart. Who would do that? Someone who is desperate?
No, it depends on the level of risk for the deal. So most apartment buildings that are cash flowing, the asset covers the cash flow more than covers the debt service, right? So typically those types of loans that are cash flowing are non-recourse. Developers, when you're going to build a building, that's a lot of risk. So those are recourse situations where the bank says, look, I'm going to give you 20 million bucks to build this building right now, but you got nothing to show for it, right? So we're going to, you're going to be personal on that, because if you're not able to deliver this building and I get stuck and let's say you can't finish this on time, I need some personal collateral because there's not any existing cash flow. So typically the riskier the deal is when the lender is going to ask for recourse. And then Timmy, the other thing is that, when you're going for that kind of construction loan to go build something, oftentimes that's with a private lender, right? As opposed to a bank. A lot of the bank debt is non-recourse, right? But when you're doing a construction loan or doing something that's a little riskier, some of these vacant transitional buildings, bridge loans, those usually fall with private lenders who are almost always going to ask for a personal guarantee.
Gotcha.
Maybe more than you ever wanted to know, but
and this is good. This is good.
But it also depends on who the lender is, like he's saying. But in small town America, as opposed to like Manhattan or whatever, most of our deals around here, 2 million, 3 million, the big ones.
Sure.
And so the local banks, they just won't do non-recourse. The deals aren't big enough. So there's a certain amount of risk just because of the size of the deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you start getting agency debt on larger deals and stuff, you can go non-recourse. But around here, if I went out and tried to get a local bank to do financing on a $3.5 million deal, like I will have zero non-recourse options.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
And so I got to make sure mama's okay with me signing.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to go home after the fact and say, hey, baby, just by the way, I just put our whole net worth at risk, by the way. Yeah. Just thought you should know, you want to have that conversation on the front end.
Yeah, right. No, makes sense. Makes sense. And I could tell James is a teacher too. You are a great communicator. I am soaking this up.
Well, I gotta speak a little slower. It's funny, when I listen to podcasts, I typically listen to 1.5, 1.75 speed. So maybe for your listeners, for me, you're gonna have to dial it back. You also have the option to go the other way. So you can listen to me at 0.5 and maybe I'll be speaking at a more normal pace.
The problem is if you and I are having a conversation, you got to speed me up. And then when you start talking, you got to turn me down. And say, like, that's just way too much work.
Yeah.
So I'll try
But then you go back and you kind of overshoot. It's like when you're trying to watch a replay at sports, but then you jump way too far back. So it's all right. Well, we'll land the ship.
It's like what Popeye said, I am what I am. And you all are what you are. Be you. I love it.
Thanks.
Great. You're welcome.
I am what I am.
I am what I am.
I wanted to ask you, James, what, man, when you do a SWOT analysis, just mentally on commercial real estate in America right now, what do you think the biggest threat is to the industry right now? This episode is sponsored in part by Site to Do Business, the ultimate commercial real estate data analysis and mapping tool. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, Site to Do Business provides the data and insights you need to make informed decisions and close deals faster. Frankly, it's the tool that I use the most in my business. Access comprehensive market analysis, demographic data, and powerful mapping tools like ArcGIS, Placer AI, and flood maps all in one place. Identify the best locations for your clients, analyze market trends, and present your findings with confidence. Don't miss out on this game-changing platform. Visit stdb.com today and see how it can optimize your business. And now back to the show.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so much of the time we spend our time in kind of the micro, if you will, the actual deals. And, we have all this macro stuff going on. I mean, look, rates, I didn't think that much about rates and kind of, all this debt that's coming, due. I didn't think about that much earlier on in my career. And now you realize the kind of distress that it's creating. But, look, I do feel like we're at least, the debt markets are starting to open back up. CMBS is flowing. So I don't feel too bad about that. I mean, I think some of these cities, and again, I've been spending in my new role a lot of time in some of these major cities, and some have recovered better than others, post COVID. I will tell you, New York is alive. The streets are busy. It feels great. I don't want to single out any cities in particular, but I'm sure you've been reading about them in the papers. And I would say, that being said, don't always believe the headlines, but visiting some of these other top cities, sometimes you go downtown and it just hasn't come back, right? And I think in some of the cases, you see that a lot of the action kind of spread to the suburbs, right? Where people said, well, I've been doing this whole commute thing. Maybe I don't need to do that anymore. Maybe I can do this like hybrid. Maybe I can go live, in the suburbs. And I will tell you that I think one of the big things that's really important for cities to rebound is safety, right? And if people, don't feel safe, right, and they're not willing to come back into the city, like, that's tough, right? Because, New York is going to be okay because people have come back to the office, and as a result, people need a place to live. People want to go out and shop. We have tourism back to levels before, COVID. That's not the case in some of these cities. And I certainly don't want to go political, but kind of what's that?
LA.
Yeah. So it got to, the cities that are going to recover, they're going to have to figure it out. So, I mean, Bo, I don't know if that answers your question, but like when you ask what is the concern, I mean, the concern would be for some of these top cities and the need to like figure that piece out, like because you want to bring people back. I mean, I am still a big believer in cities and people congregating, getting together. Like, I don't subscribe to this whole, virtual thing. I think people are so much more productive and we're meant to, collaborate. So that's, hopefully it happens in all the major cities, but that's going to be still a question mark in some areas.
In April for spring break, my family and I went to New York City, and we went to a Knicks game. We saw Hamilton. We went to the 9/11 museum, and you're right. It was crowded. It was vibrant. There was a vibe, like the energy was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'd been to New York City and spent any real time there since COVID happened. Like, I would totally agree. Like, my perspective as a tourist before and then now, the energy is there. The people were there, crowded. We stayed right off Times Square. That place was jumping 24/7. I mean, it was a lot of fun. That trip was a lot of fun. Don't eat at the Benihana's. No, Autumn had a bad experience. I had a good experience, but Autumn, sitting 2 chairs down from me, did not have a good experience after that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, man,
I hope it wasn't like, got hit by one of the flying knives or, maybe an errant.
The rest of the evening that she was paying for that meal. Yeah.
Okay.
Oof. Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
But anyway.
So did you start your podcast around COVID?
It was actually right before.
Right
I thought it
before.
was after, but I checked and it was before. Although I didn't even know if it was a podcast. I thought I was doing a radio show or something. I went into a studio and I'm like, okay, I'm putting this out there. How does this thing even work? And I mean, it is amazing. And I'm sure you guys get great feedback on the show. And it's amazing how a lot of students listen to these shows. I mean, there's just so much information out there. And I think the other thing is, like, in this world where everybody just kind of like swipes through, most people have such short attention spans, but like a podcast, somehow people will sit down and listen, whether on the commute or you gym or whatever. So it's like one of the few forms that people will actually take an hour to listen to a show.
You're 100% right. It's either one or the other. It's like 15 seconds or, 2 to 3 hours. They can do it. When you started it, what was the reason you started it? or why were you doing it, and how has it evolved to today?
I think I've actually made it a little bit simpler. Like when I first started the show, I was like, I'm gonna first of all have kind of like a news update for the prior week. So I'd make sure that I had all the news from the prior week that I could talk about for 5 minutes until I realized that that's stale by the time someone listens to it a week or two or a month. And then I tried to have on like a mini panel. I'm like, now we're going to talk about, what you need to know with, landlord tenant court. And I'd bring on a couple attorneys and this and that. And now here's our guest speaker. And then I realized it was just like too much stuff. I said, the format is I'm going to interview an investor developer. What's their story? How did you grow your business? What advice would you give to an aspiring investor? I mean, it's a pretty simple formula. When I get into the conversations, and apologies to my guests and listeners for admitting this, but my prep time is usually about 5 minutes before I go on. I mean, I think, didn't Larry King used to do that, where he's just like, I don't even want to read the book. I just want to go in cold and ask questions, like I'm asking for the first time. And so, I just go in and I just ask the questions that I want to know. And I have no idea where the interview is going to go. And it's like so much better than just like kind of, I mean, you guys do the same thing. It's not like you're asking the same thing every time. And so I just enjoy it. And I even say, look, if no one was listening to the show, I wouldn't, well, of course I'd care, but I would want to, I mean, these guests, I want to spend 45 minutes or an hour with just learning and picking their brain. Because otherwise, like, you never get the chance to sit down and be like, hey, tell me about your first deal. Tell me about what it was like, showing up to the table. And you could hear, like, yeah, I put everything on the line for this first deal, and I didn't know how I was going to raise the money. And like, fast forward, they've got 100 properties they bought, a portfolio worth a couple $100 million. I mean, it's amazing. I love it.
So who would you say? I imagine that we got a lot of bleed over in our ideal audience or ideal listener. Who would you say is your ideal listener, and what for all of our listeners that haven't heard about your podcast yet, which I bet there's not going to be very many, to be fair. But who's the ideal listener, and what can they expect to learn from starting to listen to your podcast today?
I think it is a lot of people who have a couple of years experience in the business. A lot of brokers, a lot of investors, master's students, people who, are definitely looking to raise their level of education. So not that I think anyone could get information or insight from it, but I am trying to go pretty deep on some of these, these discussions. And so I think someone who's listening wants to own real estate. They want to learn how to invest. They want to learn how to build a portfolio. I mean, they could still be a broker, but they want to invest in deals as well. So it's probably someone with 5-10 years experience. But look, I also get veteran investors who listen. I have one person who had on my show. He says, James, I've listened to my competitor because I interviewed his competitor. He said, I listened to that episode 3 times because I wanted to understand what he does. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Yep. That's very nice. It sounds like a nice stepping stone from anybody listening to ours.
It's almost like we can take them from diapers to coddling and then pass them on to James to level up for the rest of their career.
That's right. He can take them during the teenage years.
Well, if you're still doing development and you're signing personal guarantees, you might have to still wear diapers.
That's right.
That's a good line. That's a good line.
Tell me about your first deal.
Well, let's see. The bulk of my investing, first of all, as a broker, I think it's really important to kind of know what you're good at and also be very aware of conflicts, right? So being a broker and an investor in a market, I don't know how that works. You don't want to be perceived as a buyer competition. So almost all of my investing has been as a limited partner. I have a rule that I don't invest in anything that I'm brokering, anything I've been involved with. If an owner calls me up and says, James, I want to sell my property, I'm not thinking, oh, wow, this would be a great property to buy or invest in. I am 100% of the time brokerage hat on. How am I maximizing price? Now, where I invest is when clients call me up and say, hey, James, I tied up this great opportunity. I bought it off market. I bought it from another broker. That's totally fair game. The first investment I ever made was on that note. he was actually, I met him through NYU. I think I was actually, I don't know if I think he was guest lecturing for me at the time or whatever. We had connected, and he said, James, I tied up this great opportunity, this little mixed use building in the West Village. And he said, I bought it off market. He said, I think I got such a great deal. Would you go flip the contract? So Timmy, he wanted me to literally take the contract and try to sell it to someone else to step into his shoes and close it. So
Let me just break that down a little bit.
Okay.
This would be like, let's say you something happened and you have to unload your house today.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And I say, and I'm an opportunistic buyer. And so let's say it's worth $200,000, but you're in a bad way. So I'm like, man, I'll give you 120 for it. And
Yeah.
you're like, I got to sell it. So I'll do it. All right. Instead of me closing the deal, I turn around to James and say, hey, look, I've got this $200,000 house over here. I'll sell you the contract for $150,000.
Uh-huh.
So he pays me $150,000, closes on your house. You get 120,
Yes.
I get 30, and he gets a house worth $200,000.
Gotcha.
That's flipping a contract.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in real simple terms.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So after 2 weeks, I had offers for over $500,000 to flip the contract. So like, and then he said, James, I really appreciate your efforts, but like, I love this deal. It's too good. I'm going to do it myself. So I already knew going into this deal that he had an incredible buy. And I said, well, Matt, and I didn't even know what, how you invested at the time. It was a couple of years into brokering. I knew how to sell. I said, Matt, are you taking on investors? And he says, well, actually I am. So I became his first investor ever. That deal has been like the deal that just keeps giving, because he ended up condoing, selling off the floors above. We doubled our money based on that. We ended up keeping the retail. We ended up holding that for a couple of years. We doubled our money again. We took the proceeds from that. We bought an apartment building in Brooklyn. We then, the neighbor of the Brooklyn property was building a development site. They came and bought the air rights from us. It was like another distribution. It was just like, it's everything that's so exciting about real estate. And so I was very lucky. I went on with Matt. I've invested with him over a dozen times. So I will tell you all, if you are looking to invest as an LP, meaning like you're investing with a general partner, someone who's running the day to day and doing that, that's really the most important thing for me. Obviously, I need to understand the real estate deal, but I'm really focused on who the sponsor is, who's the one that, because I feel like I'm investing in the person as much as I am the real estate deal.
We say the same thing around here. Like the sponsor is at least and probably more important than the actual deal itself. Now, you mentioned air rights a second ago. Timmy, have you ever heard of air rights?
Yes. That would be the space above the building.
Right, which we don't deal with around here.
No,
yeah,
you
that
wouldn't.
might be a New York thing. I think it doesn't exist. It does exist in other markets, but Timmy, the way it works in New York is, and not all cities have as of right zoning where they tell you exactly what you can build. In some areas, you have to go and get approvals and go through all types of reviews. But New York has as of right zoning. You know what you can build. So if I have a 6-story building that, was pre-war and, some of these buildings existed before zoning was even a thing, but you have the ability to build 10 times on the lot area, I can take that extra 4 times and I can sell those air rights, those ability to build higher, to one of my immediate neighbors.
Yeah.
Now you can get really fancy and you can assemble, meaning you can sell down the line, buy air rights from, a bunch of neighbors at once. But that's one of the cool things about broker in New York. Not only do we sell buildings, we sell air rights, bonus rights. So that was just, one more way to maximize some value there.
Nice. Yeah, cool.
Never thought you could sell air, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
Except maybe in those canisters. When you go skiing up in, you can buy those in Colorado if you're have altitude sickness.
Or in like in the Vegas airport, you've got those like oxygen bars.
Yeah.
You walk out of Vegas with a 3-day hangover or something, you can cozy up to this bar and get some pure oxygen and feel better. Like
they hook you up to IVs too. I mean, I have a very warped view of Vegas because I've only been to Vegas for real estate conferences. So that probably sounds really boring. And not to say that, I've probably been going to ICSC. That's the big retail convention, Timmy. Like 30,000 people come into Vegas for, a couple days. Early on in my career, I was definitely going out late, and then, not so much in the sleep department, because then you have to show up the next day at the conference. Now, like in Vegas, I'm asleep by because I'm coming out from the East Coast, I'm asleep by like 9 o'clock, and then up the next day at the conference. But it's still, Timmy, if you want to find out what real estate's all about, maybe it's worth the trip one of these days.
Hey, I might. Have you ever been there, Bo?
One time I went to ICSC.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you go back, I'll go with you.
Okay.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have a roomie. Well, James, let's do this. We've got a few minutes left, and at the end of these episodes, we like to transition to a pop quiz. Timmy, you want to do a pop quiz?
Yeah!
All right, pop quiz. All right, so here's how this works.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
I'm ready.
What we're going to do is we're going to ask Timmy 5 questions. As our guest, you get to go first, and you're going to ask question 1, 3, and 5. I'll ask question 2 and 4. And here are the rules. Very simple. You can ask Timmy anything that we've talked about or anything else. We want to play Stump Timmy. We can do it.
Do not ask me cash on cash return.
How about Timmy, what is a short sale?
Oh yes, that's when you owe more to the bank than the building's value. Yeah, you make a deal with your selling in collaboration with the bank.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Good.
right.
Ding.
Question 1 in the books. Okay. Question 2. James has written a book.
Yes.
And he also has a podcast by the same name.
Yes.
What is the name of the book and the podcast?
Yes. The Edge. The Insider's
Is this an open book? Notes are optional.
You can't see it, but Timmy takes notes during every episode, anticipating the quiz. He's been writing the whole time you've been speaking.
I try not to look at the notes, right? But when it comes to like the title of a book or something like that, if I've got it here, The Insider's Edge to Real Estate Investing, I want to make sure I get that right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Even though I didn't have to look for that one at all.
All right. James, question 3.
Okay, so Timmy, you're a comedian. I will ask you, can you name at least 2 of the 3 amigos in the famous movie, The Three Amigos?
Yeah. Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
Yeah, softball there.
Okay, I'm going to try to pull out something
movie.
Obscure from the beginning of this episode.
Oh, okay.
Where and what sport did James participate in college? So what college?
Yeah, swimming at, I'm not looking. It's a toothpaste brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is not Crest.
No, but the C.
Colgate.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, there we go.
Swimmer at Colgate. Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Yep,
All right, James, question 5.
Okay, so Timmy, what was the name of the brokerage firm? Not just what is the name of the brokerage firm, but to get this answer correct, you have to be able to spell it as well.
Of which one?
The first brokerage firm that I worked for.
Massey Knakal.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
MasseyKnakal.
Wow. He didn't even look at his notes, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I didn't. No, I
Not
didn't.
bad at all.
So, Timmy, you got 5 for 5. Do you win anything at all, or?
This dopamine hit is my reward.
Okay.
This dopamine hit right here.
James, our dad used to say this. We'd have big family dinners. You know, there's 6 of us kids, so there's 8 of us. There was generally strays that would come on and join us at most dinners.
Yep.
People knew they could just show up and there'd be food. And so we always had these big meals. And when the meal was over, we all had chores. We all had responsibilities on the cleanup. And my dad would generally throw out a phrase like, "Man, I'm glad I don't have to do the dishes."
Oh,
you remember
yeah.
saying
Oh,
that?
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes we'd throw him like, "Hey, man, like, what do we get out of this?" And do you remember what he'd say?
You get to live here for 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks. You get to live here for 2 more weeks.
That's right.
Those 2 things. Man, I'm glad I don't have to do the dishes. I was like, and then 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
I hate the 2-week time period.
Now,
Like,
I'm so curious of everybody listening right now who can relate to that. Let us know in the comments. That's got to be a boomer dad thing, right?
Yeah,
Your
probably.
dads that are boomers. I just have a feeling that all of you all can relate. Let us know.
But you know how this is translated now? James, there's no value in the story at all. It's just maybe you can relate. Today, when we have family dinner, I still do the cleanup. Like Autumn and I do it. It's like we were trained as kids and we continue to just feel like we do it.
Oh, wow.
So the kids will participate and stuff,
Right.
but it's not like it was previously where Dad would entertain the guests and we would clean up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like now it's we still, like, we all do it, but it's mainly Autumn and I.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's the same for us, but I just thought it's because my kids are 7 and 3.
Yeah, well, mine are,
They're older. They
22,
could.
18, and 15.
Wow.
So.
That's right.
I also do the dishes, but I think it's because I'm so anal with the way that everything has to be organized. And like usually the kids just like throw all the stuff in there. I'm like, there's no way this is going to clean it. The reality is it probably will, right?
I totally get that, and that was my strategy. But no, our parents are they will.
They taught us how to work, baby.
Yeah, they taught us that they'll continue to teach. They don't throw in the towel if I do a bad job. I learned very quickly that just goes worse for me. I wouldn't get out of it, but that was my strategy. I'm just gonna do a bad job, and they'll get up on it. But no.
No, they saw it through.
James, why don't you let our listeners know, number one, where they can find your book and your podcast as well. Anything else you would like for them to know in order to connect with you or consume any of what you make?
Well, gentlemen, this has been amazing. I just want to thank you all collectively from the real estate community for, I know how much work goes into doing a podcast, and we just greatly appreciate everything you guys are doing and just making it so accessible. So thank you. You can find all my stuff at jamesnelson.com. The site is actually not about me. But it's just, because I built it for the listeners. That's where you can find out how to get the book. It's where you can get the podcast. I write articles that go up on Forbes weekly and a lot of helpful videos and resources. So that's probably the best way. And then James Nelson NYC. I'm super active on LinkedIn, Instagram. I kind of recycle the stuff on X. I know you're not supposed to do that, but LinkedIn is really where I think the action is.
Awesome. All in one place, jamesnelson.com. You all can find it all right there. Such a smart move. And James Nelson NYC would be on social media. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'd very much appreciate that. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We are trying to get Barbara Corcoran on this show. We're getting closer and closer, but we need your help to do it. You can follow us on social media at Commercially Speaking, on X at com speak pod. We have a weekly newsletter. It is free, and it's all stuff that Bo likes to read himself. It's the stuff it's curated by Bo, and you can subscribe to that at subscribe.wgbaron.com. And let me ask you real quick, James, do you have a virtual executive assistant?
No, I have someone who's wonderful in person, and I don't know how I'd function without her.
Yeah.
But if we do have some extra time, I will give you a quick Barbara Corcoran story and I'm sure you'll get her on your show. Yeah.
Yes.
The last time I met with her was probably 15, maybe 20 years ago, because when we started our firm, I mean, we were, Bob and Paul were close with her, and she came and spoke to her company. And I still remember to this day what she had to say. And I actually when I was at a graduation dinner for my middle son who just graduated from high school. When I was talking about his perseverance and everything, I referenced Barbara's talk because we asked her, we said, Barbara, you've literally hired thousands of real estate brokers. Like, what is it that is the key to the success? How do you know that someone is going to succeed? And she said the number one thing was how they handle failure. And I thought that was really, really insightful, right? And she talked about, look, this is a tough business. There's going to be a lot of letdowns. And are you a person who just throws in the towel and you just say, this just isn't going to work, I'm giving up? Or do you think, that one extra no, that 99th no, you're just that much closer to a yes? But that's always stuck with me. And whether it's brokerage life or whatever, being able to handle failure, I thought that was really good advice. So I'm sure she'll be coming on your show at a future date and she can share that story with you.
Oh, I can't wait. And that story is so applicable because how I handle failure is I do another episode until she comes on, baby. Until she comes on. If you are looking for an executive assistant or a virtual executive assistant to all of my listeners, and maybe even James, he's got a really good one right now, it sounds like. But if you want one, the one that, like what Bo has, Alice, that we say goodbye to every single time, you go to superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. For those in the back, superpowershq.com/commercially speaking. James, thanks for the time. This has been incredible.
Man. This you were a bucket list guest for me. So thanks so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation.
Thanks again for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love you, brother.
Love you, brother.
And bye, Alice.
Bye, Alice.
Do it for Barbara. Do it for Bo. And for the love of God, do it for me. Bo, there's some exciting CCIM classes you got coming up. Will you let them know about them?
Yeah, that's right. 3 102 classes I'm teaching this fall. The first, I hesitate to say I'm most excited about, but I am. I'm most excited about this first one. It's September 8th through 11th in Louisville, Kentucky. And you might think, why on earth would I go to Louisville to take anything if I have my choices to go other places? And the reason is we're hosting the class. The class is in Angel's Envy Distillery.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Downtown Louisville.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Big bar in the back of the room. There will be a tour as part of the class. I mean, it is going to be an incredible venue. Uniquely Kentucky. If you've thought about taking 102, there's a great reason to come take it in Louisville, Kentucky. But if you don't want Louisville, Kentucky, you can wait 2 weeks and join me in Missoula, Montana. If you want big sky country, come up, take the class, go fly fishing after.
Come on, baby.
And if you don't like that, then you can wait till October and join me in Miami, Florida.
Ooh!
Get a little South Beach with your market analysis course. And
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
Excellent. Cool.